In the last video, I told you that Kotlin 2.4 introduced the biggest changes in Kotlin programming language in many years. I showed you context parameters, which are a huge change that might influence significantly how we do programming in Kotlin. Um, uh, 2.4 also introduced explicit backing fields, which I explained in a separate video on this channel. And finally, Kotlin 2.4 introduced, I believe, the most awaited feature in Kotlin for a decade. Collection literals. You see, I remember when Kotlin was still much younger than it is right now. Soon after its first stable version got released in 2017, we, Kotlin community, participated in this survey. There were events, Kotlin 1.1 organized in different cities where we gathered, and participants could vote on their on the feature they would like to see in Kotlin and features they don't want to see in Kotlin. And out of all the features that were considered, the most wanted and one of the least unwanted features was collection literals. It was, as JetBrains concluded, the clear winner of this for this survey, from this survey. And actually, the only thing in here that wasn't in partially or fully supported and hasn't received support in previous versions. Collection literals were promised then, and they were even quite quickly implemented, and they were about to be introduced in language when they met an unexpected opposition. This opposition came from library creators. I remember that Jake Wharton was a significant voice that argued that collection literals shouldn't be introduced because they introduce an unfair advantage of um, standard library collections over collections made by external libraries. Let me explain. What are collection literals? So a literal in a programming language is a structure that help us create something more easily. For instance, lambda expression is a form of function literal. Yeah, it is a simplified structure that allows us to define a function. It's a function literal. Collection literal, as its name suggests, it's a structure that helps us more easily create a collection. Before collection literals in Kotlin, we used function like list of, which are, well, which require much more typing. They are more verbose, but at least they do not introduce any unfair advantage. This is just a top-level function. Any library could define its own function. So if some library creator creates its own persistent list or amazing tree or anything else, such a library can always provide a top-level function, persistent list of, amazing tree of, etc., etc., which makes it easier to use collections from external libraries. Now, collection literals are simplified structure to create collections, and in their typical implementation that you can find in most programming languages, like JavaScript, Python, there are different brackets for creating different kinds of collections. Now, Kotlin wanted to address this issue and make a original decision, a decision that I I haven't seen this solution in any other programming language. In Kotlin, we have only one collection literal, this box bracket, but the same collection literal can be used to create any kind of collection. So by default, it creates a list. But if you type it as a set, it will create a set. Yeah, and now it's a set. If you type it as an array, it will create an array. Array has no toString, so println makes little sense. So this is much more flexible. In practice, this typing thing shouldn't harm us, because in most cases we create collections when we need to, when we call functions like send email in here. When we send email, this is this is a this is a LLM suggestion. LLMs has no understanding of collection literals yet. You can create all those arguments with collection literals, yeah, which makes it much easier. And notice that here it doesn't really matter what type I specify. It can be set, it can be list, it can be array, whatever it is. I create an instance of this collection the same way, which is quite nice. Um, what is also important is that not only standard library collections are supported, but absolutely any collection can be supported. If I create my own collection, type, let's name it my list. That was actually quite a nice starting point. I will make it a data class, so its toString is meaningful. If I want it to support collection literals, all I need to do is a companion object with an operator function of. Okay, var arc elements to list. Good enough. I hope you see the point now. This collection literal creates my list or my list wrapper, and I can print it with its content. In exactly the same way, any library can provide operator function and use it this way. Notice that collection literals are also a very good fit for multi-dimensional collections. For instance, if you had such a thing as a double matrix, if you want to define a matrix, you can define of function to define a row of this matrix, but each row also needs to be defined. So for the row, you can define of function to create a row, and this way you kind of have two-dimensional matrix defined with this collection literal feature. Now, can you use it? This is a tricky question because in theory, as the documentation suggests, all you should all you should need to do to use this in your project is to add a compiler argument to enable or opt in for this feature. However, in practice, current stable version of IntelliJ isn't supporting collection literals. So if you try to use them, it won't recognize them. To show you how they work, I needed to download early access program version, IntelliJ early access program version, which anyone can download. You just search in Google IntelliJ early access program. Supports it already. Before it is supported by stable IntelliJ version, I don't expect this feature to be seen in real life projects, because it's hard to expect everyone in the team to switch to early access product IntelliJ version just for a simpler syntax. However, this can help us simplify our projects quite significantly. This is my private project, the backend behind KT Academy. It isn't supporting collection details yet, but as I said, all I need to do is to introduce these compiler arguments. I think that should be it. And now I can start replacing my list offs with collection literals. So here, instead of all that, I can use that. Well, etc. etc. In all the places where I have list of, I can start it with collection literal. Sometimes it will be, you know, few dimensional collection. Yeah, here we can use an empty list, etc. etc. It isn't a it isn't going to change our projects significantly. It's just a simple syntactic sugar that that should make our projects a little bit shorter and a little bit more pleasant to read, with less brackets and unnecessary function calls. Marking the end of collection should be easier now when they have a dedicated bracket. Counting the number of regular bracket closing is often problematic. So this is everything I prepared for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you also can't wait to see a collection literals. Stay tuned and see you on another video.